All right, good morning. So, our last topic that we need to talk about in our last 8th grade unit of the year is about congruent figures, congruent triangles. So, first we need to go back over, review what's congruent mean, what are congruent figures. So, if two figures are congruent, you should already know that means that they have the exact same shape and the exact same size. Now, what is that going to mean for our lesson? That's going to mean that when we're comparing two triangles, they're matching, they're corresponding, which means their matching angles are congruent. So the matching angles have to be the same and the corresponding sides are congruent. So the corresponding sides are the same. So if I have two triangles, I'm going to look at them to try and figure out, are they congruent? Are they the exact same shape and same size? And we're not going to be able to tell just by looking at the triangles themselves. We're going to have to look at the matching angles and the matching sides. All right, so what that means is, if you take a look at these two triangles, this is something you should have talked about before. How do I show on a picture which angles match with each other or which sides match? You draw the little marks. How do you show an angle matches? You'd say, okay, I'll put two little arcs here and two here. So that means that if these two triangles are congruent, if they're the same, then this angle is the same as this angle. And this one has one mark, this one has one mark, so that means this angle is the same as that angle. All right. And then also, let's say I wanted to say that this side is the same as that side. You would do like that little line. You'd see a line there. So one line and one line. We'll see some of those on some of the later examples. But if we take a look, one of the things that you'll have to be able to do is look at two congruent figures and find the missing pieces. So for example, if these two figures are exactly the same, what would side yx equal? So yx, that means you're going to look for its corresponding match. So we look over at this one and say, okay, which side is between the one arc and the two? All right, so 1, 2, that would be this side. And if this side is 45, then that means this side must also be 45. All right, so this is something you should have already done before. Just kind of a review of that. So if we look, okay, what about side CB? So CB goes from the right angle, the 90-degree angle, to the angle with one mark. So then if you look over here, 90-degree angle, angle of one mark, this side's 15. So this side must also be 15. And you just go through and find all of the matches. All right, what would angle Z equal? Here's angle Z. Angle Z matches with angle C. You can also tell which one's matched by, if you look up here, it says triangle ABC is congruent. That's the symbol for congruent. Is congruent to triangle XYZ. So if I want to know what does Z match with, you don't even have to look at the pictures. You could just look up here and say, okay, Z's the last letter. What's the last letter over here? C. So Z has to match with C. So that's another way to do it if you don't have the picture. So Z has to match with C. C is 90, so what's Z? 90. All right. What would angle Y be? All right, angle Y has one mark. Find its match. There's its match. 35 degrees, so this must be 35. All right, so that's something you should have learned before. What's angle A? Well, angle A, you've got to use, if this is 90 and this is 35, we've learned the three angles inside of a triangle add up to 180. So you can use that to figure out that it's 55. So that's looking at matching and corresponding sides and angles. So now the next thing we're going to do is figure out, okay, if all 6 pairs of corresponding parts, sides and angles are congruent, then triangles are congruent. So if you have two triangles and all of their sides are the same and all of their angles are the same, then you can state for a fact the two triangles are the same. Now, the question is, do you need to know all 6 sides and angles are congruent in order to state that the triangle is congruent? And the answer to that would be no, you don't. There's a special list that you can have, that you can look at, and it'll tell you whether they're congruent or not. So if we take a look, what you're going to do is on your paper, I want you to do like a T-chart, like an XY chart, except for on one side, I just want you to write yes, and on the other side, no. So we're going to make a list of yeses and nos. So just make a little T-chart, and on the top left, put yes, and on that side, we're going to put all the ones that would be yes, they prove a triangle is congruent, and on the other side, we'll put the ones that are no. And it'll make more sense once we get the examples and get our list done, and then look at some examples. Okay, so get some paper. You're going to need this because you're going to need this list. You can't complete the problems without it. So pause the video, get some paper, get some pencil, so that you can write these down. So first one on the yes side, 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 side. So what you're going to put is SSS. So on the yes side, put SSS, and that stands for side, side, side. And what that means is if I have two triangles and I look at them, if I can see, okay, this has a side, side, and a side marked, and it's showing that, okay, this side matches with this side matches with that side, this one matches with this one. If all three sides are marked as matching, then that means the triangles have to be congruent. So if the question, what you would get, you would see this picture, and the question would be, are these triangles congruent? And you would say, yes, because, and you'd write SSS. Yes, because side, side, side. If all the sides are the same, the triangles have to be the same. All right, now, you don't have to write any of this stuff. If you want to draw the picture so you have the example, that's fine. But the main thing is that you're going to have your list that we're making. So the first one on the yes side is SSS. Now, the next one on the yes side, side angle side. So you'll put SAS. And what that means is if you have two triangles and you look and you say, okay, I've got a side mark, then I've got an angle marked, and then I've got a side marked. So it's showing that a side, an angle, and a side are matching between the two triangles. So if you see that, you would just look at it and you would say, okay, what's marked? Side, an angle, and a side. And then you would look at your yes and no list and you would see, okay, SAS is on the yes side, so are they congruent? Yes, they are. And then you would just write yes because SAS. All right, so let's take a look at our next one that will be on the yes side. Well, first we're going to look at some examples of this. If you have this first triangle, and if you want to use side angle side, which angle would have to be marked? All right, would it make sense? Could I mark this one? Could I go side, angle, and then all the way around side? No, that wouldn't work. In order for it to be side, angle, side, it has to be the angle that is right in between the two sides. So if I have this side and this side, the angle that would have to be marked would have to be G. What about on this one? Which one would have to be marked? I've got a side and a side, so if I want side, angle, side, it would have to be I. And then over here, H would have to be marked. So side, angle, side. All right, we can skip this. All right, so here's our next one on the yes side. ASA, angle, side, angle. So if I look at the triangles and I can see, okay, I've got an angle marked, I've got a side marked, and I've got an angle marked. So what's marked? Angle, side, angle. Then I'd go look at my list. ASA, it's on the yes side. So yes, these two triangles, if you were going to build two triangles in front of yourself, and you had, let's say you had wood and you was going to build these triangles, if they have the same angle, side, and angle, then these two triangles have to be congruent. They have to be the same side. It is impossible for you to make two triangles that have the same angle, side, and angle, and then them end up looking differently. Can't happen. They have to be the exact same. So that's our next yes, ASA. So if we look at some of these, which side would have to be marked? So if I have this angle and this angle, could I have this one marked and it be angle, side, angle? No, that wouldn't work because you'd go angle, side, and then you'd have to skip an angle and jump to this one. So it has to be the one between them. So it would have to be that one, GI. So which side would have to be marked over here to make it angle, side, angle? Well, would have to be that one. And then over here, would have to be that one. So our next one, angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. So if you look at the triangle and you see, okay, I've got an angle, and a side, then you go check your list. Yep, that works. Now be careful because you might look at this and go, okay, I've got side, angle, angle, and then you'll look at your list and there's no SAA. Wow, it's just AAS backwards. So make sure you check that. So if you look at two triangles and they've got an angle, and a side marked, you go angle, angle, side, AAS, is it yes or no? And it's on the yes side of the list. All right. And then our last one on the yes side is hypotenuse leg. So just put HL on the yes side. And what that means, we won't get this very much, but what that means is if you have two right triangles, so if you have two right triangles and they have the 90-degree angles shown, if their hypotenuse and one of the legs are matching, then it's on the yes side. And that's going to be important because if it's not a right triangle, then it would be no. It has to be a right triangle for this one to work. If you just had an angle and then a side, that's going to be on the no side here in a minute. But if it's a right angle, then it works. So HL, hypotenuse leg on the yes side. Now, that leaves us with what's left to go on the no side. So look at the combination of letters you have. You have side, 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 angle, side. So you have SSS, SAS, ASA, AAS. So then look at the combination of what's left over. There's two combinations left, and that's going to have to go on the no side because it's not enough information. So the first one on your no side would be SSA or ASS. So you would put these on the no side. If you get this, it's not enough information. And of course, in class, you put this up here and you got kids giggling because it's obviously a bad word. So that's why they call it the donkey theorem. So that helps you. I know it's just, it helps you remember, okay, if you get the donkey, it's a no. It's a no. If you get a bad word, it's a no. So if you look at the two triangles and you say, okay, I've got an angle, side, angle, ASS, you get a bad word, that helps you remember, nope, not enough information. We cannot say, maybe they are the same exact size triangle, but we don't have enough information to say that for sure. So if the question was, are these two triangles congruent? You would say no, and then that's it. You don't have to label it because of SSA or ASS. You just would say no, there's not enough information. And then the only other combination of letters is AAA. So there is no such thing as a AAA theorem. AAA doesn't work because if you look at the picture, you can have two triangles that have the same exact angles, but they're different sizes. So if you get a problem and you look at it and you say, okay, what's marked? Angle, angle, angle. Well, AAA is on the no side, so your answer would be, is it a right triangle? You would say no, not enough information. All right, so you should have your list. These should be on the yes side. So you should have SSS, ASA, SAS, AAS, and HL all on the yes side. And then on the no side, you should have ASS, SSA, and AAA. So if you get a bad word, and it's easier to remember the no's than the yeses. So as long as you remember, if you have a bad word, it's a no. And if you have AAA, it's a no. Easiest way to remember it. You don't have AAA, and the donkey theorem's bad. So no donkeys and no AAA. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. So if we look at this one, we have two triangles. What's marked? So we wouldn't look at this and go a side and then go the long way around, side angle. You go the shortest distance around. So what's marked? I have a side, an angle, and a side. So SAS. And is that a yes or a no? You would put yes, SAS. That's on the yes side. And that's it. That's all you're doing for this topic. They give you two triangles, and you're just going to have to tell, are they congruent, yes or no, and which one did you use to figure it out? So if we look at this one, what's marked? I have an angle, a side, and an angle. So angle, side, angle, ASA. Is that on the yes or no side? It should be on the yes side of your graph, or not graph, but on your table. All right, so then if we go look at this one, what's marked? We've got either you could go look at it and say, okay, I've got a side, and an angle. Or you could go, I have an angle, a side, and a side. Whichever way you go, doesn't matter. You get either ASS or SSA. And if you look at your list, nope, not enough information. Maybe they're the same, but we can't say for sure. So that one would be a no. And if we looked at this one, what's marked? Well, this side matches this side matches this side matches this side. So side, 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 which would be a yes. All right, that's all you're going to be doing. All right, so if we look at some more examples, what's marked on this one? Angle, angle, angle. AAA, which we know is no. If we look over here, what's marked? An angle, a side, and an angle. So we would label that as ASA, which is on what side? Yes. Then we drop down here. What's marked? Well, I've got a side, an angle, and a side. So SAS, which would be a yes. And then they'll start trying to give you some more complicated looking figures. So this one, we have a triangle, and a rectangle between them. Rectangle doesn't matter. Just look at the triangle and see what's marked. I have a side, and an angle. All right, so either SSA, or you could say an angle, a side, and a side, but either way, you get a bad word, so it's a no. So not congruent, yes, yes, and no. And then these are the last ones we'll look at, because these kind of throw it off a little bit, because they're using some things we've already learned to make you figure out some other matching angles that aren't shown. For example, if we look at these two, only thing marked is a side and an angle. Are there any other pieces of those two triangles we know have to be the same? Well, if we look at them, they share this side. So even though it's not marked, we could go ahead and mark it. They share a side, so they have to be the same. So now, what's marked? Side, angle, side. So you got to be careful of that. So if they share a side, you can go ahead and mark it that, yep, they're the same. All right, if we look over here, only thing that's marked is a side and a side. So you'd say, okay, side, side, that's nothing, and you'd put no, but you got to be careful, because we just learned in this unit earlier, when two lines cross, the angles across from each other are vertical, and if they're vertical, we can mark these as being the same. So now, what's marked on the triangle? We have a side, an angle, and a side, and that's on the yes list. So you would say yes, side, angle, side. And then if we go and look at this one, same thing, vertical angles. So now we have angle, side, angle, which is a yes. And if we come over here, they share a side, so you could mark it. And then you could say, well, now what's marked? an angle, a side, and a side. Or you could say a side, and an angle. But either way, you get a no. All right. So over the next few days, we're going to have some IXLs to do. We're going to have some worksheets to do, which is just going to be look at the two triangles, and then you're going to tell, is it side, 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 side angle, side? Is it congruent? Yes or no? And that's the type of questions you're going to get. If this is confusing to you, come to the Google Meets. Come tomorrow. We'll open up some examples and we'll do some examples together. Okay. This is one of those where it's easier to go over it if you can do the examples in person with somebody. So if you're confused on this, come to the Google Meet. All right. We'll go through examples. We'll do problems together. We'll pull up your assignment and look at it together and work on them. All right. If you have any questions, email me or, like I said, come to the Google Meet. And I will talk to you all later.